The gunshot cracked through the twilight like a judge's gavel, shattering the fragile piece of Willow Creek's annual harvest fair. I froze mid-stride, my hand instinctively dropping to the holster at my hip, heart slamming against ribs that suddenly felt too tight for the man I'd become. In that split second, as screams erupted and the crowd surged like a stampede of frightened cattle, I saw him crumpled on the sawdust-strewn ground, blood blooming dark against his rainbow-pinned jacket, his eyes wide with the kind of betrayal that no law could mend. That was the night everything in my carefully walled-off world began to unravel. Willow Creek, Wyoming, my birthplace, my prison. My reluctant kingdom had always whispered its secrets in the windswept plains. But this one roared. The victim was Tommy Hale, the town's quiet mechanic who dared to wave a pride flag from his garage 6 months back. And the shooter, old Harlan Greer, a rancher whose Bible-thumping sermons had long painted folks like Tommy as abominations. I knew Harlan. Hell, I'd shared coffee with him at the diner just last week, nodding along to his gripes about city morals creeping in. Now, as sheriff, it fell to me, Landon Reeves. 35 years old and drowning in a legacy I never asked for to cuff the man who'd once bounced me on his knee. Stay back, I bellowed, my voice cutting through the chaos as deputies swarmed in from the edges of the fairgrounds. The air smelled of popcorn gone sour and the metallic tang of blood. And for a heartbeat, I couldn't move. Tommy's gasp was a knife twist soft, ragged, pleading for a world that had just turned its back. I dropped to my knees beside him, pressing my bandana to the wound in his shoulder, whispering assurances I didn't believe. Hang on, buddy. Help's coming. But inside, fury boiled, hot and unfamiliar. This wasn't just a shooting. It was Willow Creek declaring war on its own shadows. And I was the fool holding the line. By the time the ambulance wailed away, sirens piercing the star-pricked sky, the crowd had thinned to murmurs and averted eyes. Harlan sat in the back of my cruiser, head bowed, muttering about divine retribution. But his hands shook not from regret, I suspected, but from the cold slap of consequence. I slammed the door harder than necessary, leaning against the hood to catch my breath. That's when I noticed the man pushing through the stragglers, notebook in hand, recorder thrust forward like a lance. He was city-sharp in this Dust Bowl town, slim build, auburn hair catching the floodlights, green eyes that locked onto mine with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. Sheriff Reeves. Alex Harper. Independent Press. What can you tell me about the motive here? His voice was steady, laced with that East Coast edge New York. I'd bet my badge demanding answers in a place where questions were politely ignored. Up close, he was younger than he looked on TV clips I'd glimpsed. Maybe 28, with a jaw set like he was born arguing with storms. Sweat beaded his forehead, but he didn't flinch from the glares of the locals circling like wary coyotes. I straightened, badge glinting under the lights, feeling the weight of every unspoken truth I'd buried since high school. No comment. Mr. Harper, this is an active investigation. But even as the words left my mouth, something in his gaze unyielding, alive with a fire I hadn't felt in years hooked into me, pulling at threads I'd long ago knotted tight. He didn't back down. Active. Harlan Greer's been preaching hate from his pulpit for decades. This isn't random, it's a pattern. Tommy Hale's the third queer kid run out or hurt in 2 years. You gonna investigate that? Or just file it under small-town accident? The accusation landed like a gut punch. I glanced around. Folks were listening, their faces a mosaic of sympathy and suspicion. My father, God rest him, had worn this star for 30 years, turning blind eyes to keep the peace. The law doesn't bend for headlines, I said, low and even, but my voice cracked on the edge. Alex's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but recognition, like he saw the fracture lines I hid under flannel and stoicism. Fair enough. But if you won't talk, I will. Starting with why a town this pretty hides so much ugly. He jotted something in his notebook, then met my stare again. For what it's worth, Sheriff, you look like a man who's tired of pretending. He walked away then, melting into the shadows toward the motel strip, leaving me adrift in the echo of his words. Pretending. The accusation clung like sagebrush burrs. I'd been pretending since I was 16. When I first kissed Billy under the bleachers and spent the next night puking from terror. Pretending through Dad's funeral. When the town hailed me as his heir. Badge thrust upon me like a crown of thorns. Pretending that the ache in my chest at night was just loneliness. Not a life half-lived. That night, as I drove home to the empty ranch house on the outskirts, porch light flickering like a hesitant heartbeat, but couldn't shake him. Alex Harper. Fearless. Foolish. And far too close to the truth. Willow Creek had always been a place where men like me learned to swallow their stories. But something told me this journalist wasn't the type to let secrets stay buried. And damn if that didn't scare me as much as it stirred the embers I'd thought long cold. The next morning dawned crisp. The kind of Wyoming blue that promised forgetting. But the headlines on my kitchen table, courtesy of the single pot of black coffee I nursed, ensured otherwise. Hate in the Heartland. Shooting exposes Willow Creek's dark underbelly. Blared the digital alert from some national outlet, with Alex's byline glowing like a brand. I scrolled through it, jaw clenched, as his words painted our town not as the sturdy backbone of America, but a fractured relic clinging to outdated fears. Tommy's story was there, woven with interviews from exiles who'd fled years ago, their voices raw with the scars of rejection. And woven through it all, a subtle thread, the sheriff's office. Slow to act, mired in tradition. By noon, my office was a hornet's nest. Councilman Ellis pounded my desk, face red as a branding iron. Reeves, you let that pencil-necked Yankee stir this pot. Folks are talking boycott. Tourists won't come if we look like some backwoods hate fest. I nodded, murmured assurances. But inside, a spark ignited. Alex had laid bare what we'd all known but never named, the quiet violence of silence. Harlan's arraignment was set for afternoon. And as I prepped the file, my deputy, Carla solid as oak, with a no-nonsense braid and eyes that missed nothing, leaned in the doorway. You gonna let him get away with it, boss? Or you gonna finally grow a spine? Her words were blunt, but her tone held the affection of 20 years' loyalty. Carla knew pieces of me enough to suspect, never enough to pry. I rubbed my temples, the badge heavy on my chest. Law's the law, Carla. But maybe it's time we wrote a few new lines. She smirked. About damn time. The courthouse steps swarmed with locals when I arrived. A mix of protesters waving signs, justice for Tommy, and counterfolks clutching crosses, chanting about family values. And there, notebook at the ready, was Alex. Our eyes met across the divide. And for a moment, the crowd blurred. He looked weary, shadows under those green eyes, but undimmed a lighthouse in the fog of my doubts. After the hearing, Harlan pleading not guilty, bond set low on account of his upstanding character, I found Alex lingering by the willow tree that gave the creek its name, sketching idly in his pad. Stirring the pot again. Mr. Harper. I approached, hands in pockets to hide their tremble. He looked up, a half-smile tugging his lips wry. Knowing. Just documenting. Sheriff. Someone has to. He flipped the pad shut, revealing a quick sketch, the fairgrounds. The fall of bodies. My silhouette kneeling in the dust. It was raw, unflinching, and it stole my breath. Why here? I asked, voice rougher than intended. Why Willow Creek? Of all godforsaken dots on the map. Alex's gaze softened. Just a fraction. Because stories like this, they don't stay buried forever. And neither should people. He paused, searching my face. You included. The words hung between us, electric as a summer storm. I wanted to bolt, to retreat to the ranch where echoes of Dad's lectures still lingered. Men like us keep the peace. Son, no matter the cost. But Alex's honesty pinned me, a mirror to the man I'd silenced. Dinner. The offer slipped out. Impulsive, born of exhaustion and that treacherous pull in my gut. Not for a quote. Just two guys talking. His surprise flickered, then warmed into a grin that lit something fierce inside me. I'd like that. Landon. We met at the diner neutral ground. Fluorescent hum and grease-scented air a buffer against the town's prying eyes. Over burgers that tasted like childhood regrets. Alex unfolded his world, New York cubicles, exposés that toppled corrupt mayors, the thrill of truth as his North Star. But beneath the bravado, cracks Shoida, a estranged sister who called him unnatural. The gnawing fear that chasing stories meant running from his own. And you? He prodded gently. Fork paused midair. Sheriff by choice. Or by default. I stared at my plate. The uneaten fries a map of my hesitations. Dad's shadow. He died in the line chasing poachers up Rattlesnake Ridge. Town needed continuity. I needed purpose, I guess. Lies by omission. But close enough. The real truth that I'd stayed to anchor myself against the tide of who I was stayed locked. Alex nodded. No judgment in his eyes. Purpose can be a cage if it's not yours. His foot brushed mine under the table, accidental. Intentional. And heat flooded me. A reminder of touches I denied myself. We talked late. The diner emptying around us. Words bridging the chasm between badge and byline. For the first time in years, I laughed genuine. Unguarded, and it felt like cracking open a door long sealed. But Willow Creek doesn't forgive cracks. By week's end, anonymous notes appeared on my truck. Clean up your own house. Queer lover. Whispers followed me through the feed store. Eyes lingering too long. Tommy stabilized in Casper General. But his garage stood boarded. A ghost of defiance. And Alex. He dug deeper. Interviewing ranch hands who'd seen Harlan's rants turn physical. Unearthing a pattern of intimidation that traced back decades. One evening, as thunderheads rolled in from the bighorns, I found him at the creek's edge. Recorder capturing the rush of water over stones. Rain started soft, then sheeted down, soaking us both. You should go inside, I said, but stayed, drawn like moth to flame. Not without you. His voice cut through the downpour. And before reason could intervene, he closed the distance. Our kiss was tentative at first, salt and storm. Questions and answers then urgent. A dam breaking after years of drought. His hands in my hair. My arms around his waist. It was everything I'd imagined in fevered dreams and everything I'd feared in waking hours. We broke apart gasping. Foreheads pressed. The world narrowing to heartbeat sync. This town's gonna eat us alive. I murmured. Terror and joy warring in my chest. Alex cupped my face. Thumb tracing my jaw. Then we fight back. Together. In that moment, under the relentless rain, I glimpsed a future not shadowed by pretense, a life where love wasn't a secret, but a stand. But Willow Creek's roots ran deep, and Harlan's trial loomed like winter's first frost. As we drove back, hands linked over the gear shift, I wondered if a man like me could rewrite his story, or if the heartland would claim us both. The weeks blurred into a tense rhythm, mornings patrolling empty streets where tension hummed like power lines. Afternoons buried in case files that peeled back layers of complicity. Harlan's defense painted him as a pillar church deacon, Little League coach's moment of passion, a aberration, not emblem. Alex's articles countered, each one a scalpel, profiles of survivors. Data on rural hate crimes spiking 40% in the last decade. Calls for federal oversight. His words rippled outward, drawing national eyes to our speck of a town. And with them, protests that clogged Main Street. I watched from my office window as rainbow flags unfurled beside the stars and stripes. A fragile alliance against the knot of counter-demonstrators. Carla manned the barricades, her radio crackling with updates. But it was Alex who held the line in print and person. He crashed at my ranch some nights platonic at first. Then not-hour conversations stretching till dawn. Bodies entwined in the quiet sanctuary of flannel sheets. He traced the scars on my knuckles from bar fights I'd broken up. And I learned the freckles across his shoulders like constellations. "You're braver than you know, Landon," he'd whisper, fingers interlacing with mine. "Most men hide forever. You're peeking out." But bravery felt like fragility. Dad's old trunk in the attic held yellowed letters his own. To a soldier from Korea. Words of longing snipped short by duty. I'd found them as a teen. Heart pounding. And shoved them back. Vowing silence. Now, with Alex, the past clawed closer. What if I can't? I confessed one night. Fire crackling in the hearth. What if this badge chokes me before I breathe free? He pulled me close, breath warm against my neck. Then we cut it off. But you won't. Not alone. The trial opened under gray skies. The county courthouse a tinderbox. Harlan took the stand. Voice quavering with rehearsed piety. "I love this town. Your Honor. That boy Tamahi was leading our youth astray." The devil whispered. And I. Tears flowed. Crocodile style. As his lawyer spun sympathy from scripture. Alex sat 3 rows back. Notebook flying. But his eyes found mine across the aisle, steady anchor in the storm. When Tommy testified, voice steady despite the sling on his arm, recounting the shot as the town's judgment made flesh. The gallery gasped. I gripped the rail, knuckles white, the weight of every unacted complaint pressing down. Cross-examination turned vicious, Harlan's attorney grilling Tommy on his lifestyle choices, implying provocation. Objections flew, but the damage seeped. A poison in the well. Outside, scuffles broke, signs torn. Shouts escalating to shoves. I waded in, badge a shield, pulling apart a burly farmer from a wiry activist. Their hatreds mirroring my own divided soul. That night, alone in the ranch's dim kitchen, doubt crashed over me like a rogue wave. Alex arrived soaked from a vigil. Eyes fierce. They're scared. Landon. Of change. Of you seeing it. I slammed my fist on the counter. Coffee mug shattering. I'm the enemy now. Notes on my door. Calls to the council Reeves gone soft. Dad would roll in his grave. Alex crossed the room, glass crunching underfoot, and took my hand steady, unyielding. Your dad built walls. You're tearing them down. That's not soft. That's steel. His kiss was fierce, a vow amid ruins. And in his arms, I glimpsed redemption, not erasure, but reclamation. But the fracture widened. Councilman Ellis cornered me post-recess. Resign. Son, let a real lawman handle this circus. His words echoed Dad's ghost. And for a heartbeat, I wavered. Then Alex's article dropped front page. National, Sheriff's Silence or Sanctuary. Willow Creek's guardian faces his mirror. It quoted sources I'd never named. Carla, an old friend, laying bare the department's inaction on prior assaults. Fury boiled. I stormed the motel, pounding on his door. You used me. I roared when he opened. Rain lashed and raw. Turned my life into ink. He didn't flinch. I wrote truth. Landon. Yours. If you'd claim it. His voice broke. Vulnerability cracking the facade. I came here for a story. Stayed for you. But if loving you means watching you drown in denial. The fight dissolved into sobs. My walls crumbling as I pulled him close. Don't go. Please. We held each other through the night. Whispers weaving promises amid the thunder vows to testify. To stand. To love without apology. Trial's end came swift. Harlan convicted on lesser charges, aggravated assault. Not hate crime, sentence light. Community service in the church he weaponized. Outrage erupted. Vigils swelled. Alex at the mic. Voice carrying over the plains. Justice delayed isn't denied. But Willow Creek. It's time to choose, fear or family. For all of us. I took the stand unbidden. Badge pinned proud. Voice steady for the first time. This town raised me. Taught me duty. But duty without heart is hollow. Tommy hails no abominations, our neighbor. Our kin. And Harlan. He needs healing. Not hate. We all do. The words hung. A gauntlet thrown. Applause mixed with boos. But Alex's smile from the crowd was sunlight breaking clouds. Months folded into the relentless cycle of season's winter's grip loosening to spring's tentative bloom. Willow Creek stirring like a beast from hibernation. The conviction hung over us like smoke from a dying fire. Harlan's service became awkward sermons laced with half apologies. His flock thinning as whispers of doubt spread. Tommy returned. Garage reopening under a fresh pride banner. His laugh echoing down Main Street as locals tentative at first dropped by for oil changes. Conversations blooming from small talk to shared stories. For me, the change was seismic. Subterranean. The badge, once a noose, began to fit looser. I pushed for diversity training with the council. Carla leading sessions in the VFW hall. Her dry wit disarming even the staunchest holdouts. Ain't about politics. She'd say. It's about not being an ass to your neighbor. Alex stayed. His temporary assignment stretching into a freelance base from the ranch's spare room, our room. Now, walls adorned with his sketches and my father's old maps. A bridge across our worlds. Nights were sanctuary, tangled sheets. His head on my chest. Heartbeat a lullaby against the day's fray. You're blooming. Sheriff. He'd tease. Fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin. But dawn brought the real test, public glances that lingered too long. The council's sidelong looks during meetings. Coming out wasn't a banner wave. It was a slow unfurling. Letter by letter. My first fracture came at the Memorial Day picnic. Under cottonwoods heavy with green. Dad's plaque gleamed on the veteran's wall, Landon Reeves Sr. Served with honor, and as I laid the wreath, Mayor Ellis approached. Smile oily. Fine speech last town hall. Son. Inclusive Willow Creek catchy. But folks talk. That journalist bunking at yours. Optics. You know. The implication slithered. And I straightened. Voice low. Optics. Or just truth. Mayor. Alex Harper's here because he sees us flaws and all. Maybe you should try it. He blinked. Then chuckled uneasily. Just looking out. Legacy's a heavy load. Legacy. The word haunted me through the potato salad and kid sack races. Until Alex found me by the creek. Skipping stones with a ferocity that betrayed my storm. Ellis. He guessed. Settling beside me. His presence a bomb. Worse. Dad. I hurled another flat rock. Watching it kiss water thrice before sinking. He loved this town enough to bury himself. What if I'm not that strong? Alex's hand on my knee grounded me. Green eyes fierce. Strength isn't silence. Landon. It's showing up, scars and all. Your dad built the foundation. You're raising the roof. We walked back linked. Subtle but sure. And when a gaggle of teens catcalled half jeer, half curious met it with nods. No retreat. That night, over venison stew, I pulled out the trunk letters, yellowed pages trembling in my grip. He wrote these to a man. Never sent them. Died with the words inside. Alex read silently, tears tracking silent paths. He was brave in his way. But you're free. His kiss sealed it. Soft and sure. A pact against ghosts. Summer scorched the plains. Hay bales dotting fields like golden loaves. And with heat came heat literal and figurative. Alex's series expanded, Heartland Horizons. Podcast from the ranch porch. Voices of LGBTQ plus ranchers. Teachers. Vets sharing tales of hidden lives. Listeners poured in. Donations for a community center. But so did backlash tires slashed on Alex's Jeep. My cruiser egged under cover of night. One sweltering July eve. It peaked, a cross burned on the edge of town. Flames licking skyward near the creek bridge. Sirens wailed as I arrived. Carla's truck already cordoning the site. Her face grim. Kids. Probably. Harlan's grandkids. Stirring daddy's pot. But the note pinned to a stake, leave or burn, was adult scrawl. Venom inked deep. Alex arrived minutes later. Camera flashing despite the danger. Documenting the char. This is why we fight, he said. Voice steel. But his hand shook as it found mine behind the glare. Investigation led to Milo Greer Harlan's nephew. A hothead with a rap sheet for bar brawls. I hauled him in at dawn. The station's fluorescence harsh on his defiant sneer. Ain't nothing but tradition. Sheriff. Protecting what's ours. Tradition. I leaned in. Badge forgotten. Man to man. Or just fear. Milo. Afraid a little love will topple your world. He spat. But his eyes wavered cracks in the armor. By release. Charges dropped for lack of prints. But the seed was planted. Whispers turned. Reeves stood up. Greer's kin shamed us. August brought the county fair not harvest. But rodeo reed extents billowing under relentless sun. I worked security. Sweat soaking my uniform. When Alex pulled me aside behind the cotton candy stand. Surprise. He pressed a small box into my palm velvet. Unassuming. Inside. Twin silver bands. Etched with willows intertwined. Not marriage yet. But promise rings. For the man who's stealing my heart. One brave step at a time. Tears stung. Dust blurring my vision. Alex. She'll. Just say yes. His grin was boyish. Vulnerable. And I slid the ring on. Metal cool against fevered skin. We kissed there. Hidden but whole. The fair's roar distant him. But joy's shadow loomed. News from Casper, Tommy. Engaged to his partner from Denver. Planning a wedding. Invitation arrived. Rainbow envelope a beacon. Come as you are. It read. But Willow Creek's pulse quickened rumors of a reclamation rally. Harlan paroled early for good behavior. Pulpit primed. Fall crept in. Leaves turning crimson warnings. And the rally materialized, a tent revival on the fairgrounds. Harlan's voice booming through speakers, repent. For the end times bring abominations to our door. Crowd swelled. Faces I'd known since cradle neighbors. Kin nodding fervent amens. Alex and I attended incognito. Hoods up in the back. But tension crackled. When Harlan's gaze swept our way. Lingering. My stomach nodded. The sheriff's gone astray. Brothers. Betting the enemy. Forsaking his blood. Gasps rippled. Heads turned. I stood. Ring glinting under lights. Voice carrying clear. Enough. Harlan. Your words poisoned a boy. Scarred a town. But hate. It ends tonight. Chaos erupted shouts. Shoves, but Carla's deputies flooded in. Order restored. Harlan lunged. But Milo held him back, muttering, "Uncle, stop. It's over." In the aftermath, as stars wheeled overhead, Alex and I walked the empty grounds, hands clasped. "You did it," he breathed. "Spoke your truth." "Not alone." I pulled him close, heart full. "Never again." Winter's Eve found us at Tommy's wedding small, heartfelt, under strung lights in his garage-turned venue. Vows exchanged, rings slipped on, and when the toast circled, I rose, glass raised. To love that endures. To Willow Creek flawed. Fierce. Family. Cheers echoed. And as snow flurried soft outside, Alex's whisper sealed the night. To us. Spring thawed the ground. But not the reckonings. Willow Creek bloomed, tentative community center groundbreaking on the old mill site. Funded by Alex's series Windfall. Walls rising like hope made manifest. I oversaw permits. Badge a tool now, not chain. While Carla trained volunteers. Her laugh booming as foundations poured. Personal tides shifted too. I came out formally town hall announcement. Voice steady over the mic. I've loved in silence too long. Alex Harper's my partner. My heart. And that's no crime. Gasps. Then applause ripples spreading. Doors creaking open. Dad's grave visit followed. Letters buried beside him. A quiet absolution. I see you now. Pa. Whole. Alex's work evolved, from expose to empowerment. Workshops drawing journalists from Cheyenne. His New York roots feeding back stories of resilience. Nights. We'd pour over maps. Plotting expansions podcasts to plains wide. A network of hidden hearts finding voice. But scars itched. June heat wave brought a call from Ellis. Re-elections coming. Reeves. Polls shaky, folks love progress. But. The but hung. Unspoken thread of replacement. I hung up. Storming the porch where Alex edited footage. They want me out. Too controversial. He set the laptop aside, pulling me down beside him. Then run on your terms. Not theirs. The decision crystallized over barbecues and backroom talks. Carla co-campaigning. Her endorsement gold. You're the sheriff we need. Boss. Badge and balls. Fall election night packed the VFW. Air thick with fry grease and fate. Tally climbed, 52% narrow. Hard won. Victory whoops drowned doubts. Alex's hug fierce amid confetti. You earned this. We did. Winter deepened resolve. Harlan's full release stirred ghosts. He approached at the diner. Eyes downcast. Sheriff. Landon. I was wrong. Lost my way in fear. Apology halting. Genuine first crack in his fortress. Forgive. I echoed. Stirring coffee. Takes time. Harlan. Start by listening. He nodded, leaving a tip too generous. Seed of change. New Year dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered. Alex proposing expansion to Denver Bureau. But only if you're ready. I was ranch sold partial. Funds for travels. Our life a road unfolding. Yet trials echo lingered. A letter arrived anonymous. Scrawled, proud of you. Son. From the shadows. Dad's handwriting. Impossible. But spirit true. Valentine's. Under aurora-veiled skies. Alex knelt by the creek. Marry me. Landon. Let's build forever. One story at a time. Yes. I choked. Ring sliding home willow-edged gold. Cheers from Carla and Tommy. Gathered secret. Fireworks of heart. Spring wedding bloomed full, under those same cottonwoods. Vows traded in bloom scent air. I never wanted this badge. I promised. But you You make every wait worthwhile. You stole my heart first. He replied. Kiss sealing fate. Willow Creek watched. Embraced rainbow flags beside badges. A town reborn in love's quiet revolution. Years wove on. Threads of trial to triumph. The center thrived youth groups. Support circles Alex's helm. My patrols ensuring safe harbors. Children came, adopted twins. Wide-eyed wonders. Teaching joy anew. One dusk. Porch swinged with babes asleep inside. Alex leaned head on shoulder. Regrets? None. Hand over his. Rings glinting. Only gratitude. The fearless journalist hadn't just stolen my hearth-mended a town's. And mine. In Willow Creek's endless sky. We'd found home not perfect, but profoundly ours. And that, in the heartland's unyielding grace, was victory enough.
I want you to document everything you see from this point forward. We need a clear record of their activities.